What we will do next is to make this add new book form display in a model. We replace it with a button, add book. Once you click this button, a model will open. To create this model behavior, I will create a new UI component. I will add in the UI folder a new component. I will name it model. Inside of it will be a functional component. I will export model. Here I will return a wrapper element div. Inside of it there will be the props.children. I will export this model in my index.js, which is responsible for exporting all my UI component. So I will first import model and I'll export it as model. In my app I'll import the model by adding model to my object that I'm importing it from index.js in the UI folder. I will use the model to wrap the wall add new book, so I replace this div with model and the closing div also. Instead of having here an element h2, I will let the model have a title by giving it a prop title that have a value. The text of the title, I will remove the h2 from here and place it in the model, so I can have a look in my browser and see that everything is working as expected. Let's continue. Now this is my model. I need to style it to look like a model. First, the wrapper element will act as a mask, which will be styled as a transparent dark background, and the content will be wrapped in another element, which will be another div, and this element will act as the content of this model, which will have a background or white color and a box shadow plus rounded corners. By using our library, the styled component, I will import style from style component, and instead of having here a div, I will have a component which I'll name it styled model, which will be equal to, of course, style.div, and we'll have the style, the CSS style sheet inside here. Now I will replace my simple div with styled model component. The first step that I need for this component is to fill the wall screen. To do this, I will give it a position of fixed, so width equal to 100% and height equal to 100% of the screen. Now for the position, it will position top 0, left 0. The background color will be transparent background, black with 0.8 transparency. The first child element, which is this content here, will be centered on the screen. To center any child element on the screen, we can use the flex. I'll set the display to flex and align items to center and justify content also to center. I guess it's with an S. Alright, so if we have a look, we can see our styles are applied as expected. Now let's work on the content element. I will create another component called modal content, which will be to styled div. I will replace my div with the component modal content. Now I'll give it a background color of white. Box shadow will be to 1 pixel, 5 pixel blur, and the size will be 2 pixel. Color will be a transparent black, 0. Let's say 4. Now border radius also will have a 6 pixel value. Padding, I'll give it a 13 pixel padding. Now for the h2 element, I'll give it a class name title. Okay. I can use this syntax here, which will work similar to any CSS processor like the SAS. This will target the child element with a class title. For the title, I will remove the margin top. The content need to have a max width and height, so I will apply max width to 80% of the screen, or I can use 80 VW viewport. Max height is also 80 V height, view height. Now I will give a control of the width and height for the user of this component. What I will do, I will use a function. Any functions that are placed inside string interpolation, it will be evaluated by the styled components library and send as a parameter the props. So I get the props as a parameter here, and I will check if there's a height, props.width, props.width. If there's the props.width, I will add an additional styles. First I'll import the function that allow me to add additional style. The additional style will be the specified width, which will be to props.width. Here I need to use the with $sign, props.width. I will append the pixel at the end. This will be evaluated and the value of it will be returned as a string. Now this is for the width, the same thing for the height. If we have a prop width or height, I will use the specific height and width, which will be added to our main style. Now, in CSS, we have a new feature called clamp. What clamp will do is receive a three parameters. The first parameter will be the minimum, the second will be the default value, and the third will be the max. First, I will add the minimum 20. The default will be the user value, and the max will be 80. The same thing will apply to the height. This will restrict our width or height to be between 20 and 80% of the screen. We keep our max width and height values in case the user didn't provide any width or height. If I check again, we will see that the width and height hasn't been applied yet because I didn't provide a custom width and height. I can test it now by providing width equal to, let's say, 600 and the height equal to 600, which should change the width and height of the model to 600 by 600. But before this will be applied, I need to send the prop to my model content here. So I will send a width prop that will have a value of the prop.width, and the height props, which will have the value of also props.height. Now I can check, and the width and height have been applied. Now I can test for the clamp function or the max width and height by applying a large width, let's say 3000. And 3000 for height, and we can, or for the width I will provide 6000. Nothing will change because it is limited also to 80%. Now, as you can see, since we're using the percent, we have here the space bigger than this, of course. To solve this, we can use the calc function of the CSS here by using the calc function, which take a calculation. We can make it 100 minus, let's say, 30 pixels. So this will assure us a 30 pixel from top button and left right. Now for the clamp here, I think with these values, I think we don't need to use the clamp here. I will remove it. In our case, clamp is not very useful. Without a clamp, we'll be fine. First of all, I made here a mistake. View, it should be height. Now actually it is taking our style, but here we have a problem. It's a CSS issue. we are making 30 pixel, but it's not visible. If we make it like 100 pixel, we will see something. The problem here is with style sheet. We're having here the padding, which will be added to the width. Now, if the width of the modal content is 100, with this 13 pixel, it will be 100 plus 30 pixel. To fix this problem, we'll need to add the box sizing to prevent the padding from adding width to our element. I can add it to this specific element, but I need this style to be applied to all my element. To do this, I will create a global style sheet in my src. I will add a file. I will name it styles.css. And if you research the internet, you will find many examples on how to properly apply this to all elements and to all browsers. Here in csstricks.com, I have found this piece of rules that work great for all browsers and will be applied to all elements. By adding this to my styles.css and adding it to app.js, import slash. If I go back to my model and set it to again to 30 pixel, in fact this need to be 60 pixel to have it 30-30 on both sides. As you can see here in our app.js, we specified a huge values. Now these values are discarded in favor of the max width, which will restrict the value of the model. As you can see, for the width it is less space than for the height. This is due to the scroll bar here. The scroll bar here is taking some space. We can solve it in two ways. We can disable the scroll bar once we have our pop-up, or we can, instead of using the 100 view width, we can use the 100 percentage, which count only the window of our website without the scroll bar of the browser. We can use the percentage here to solve this now quickly. For now, this works fine here. So here is our model styled properly. I will now remove the width and height props. We'll have the default width and height. In case the content inside our model are larger than the height of the model, let me give you an example. Here in my app.js, I can duplicate the content to make it larger. For example, let's duplicate the field title too many times. Okay, now I need more. As you can see, the content are displayed now outside of the height of the model content, which is limited to 80% of the screen. So we need to introduce some scrolling to solve this problem. Here in my model, I can set the first overflow to hidden and the overflow of the Y to scroll. Now we have a scrolling, but the style has been ruined, so we don't have anymore the radius on the right side due to the scrolling here bar overlapping this the radius, which is hidden behind the scroll bar. What we can do is remove the scrolling from the model content and adding it to another child element, a div, let's say, with a class name equal to scroller. Now I will keep the overflow hidden on the parent, and I will add dot scroller. I will add for the scroller the overflow y scroll. Alright, now As you can see, it looks ugly because of the padding that is applied on the parent. I will remove the padding from the parent and apply it to my scroller. Alright. Now the scroller also needs to have overflow hidden. Its height should be 100%. Position relative. I'll add position relative to both the parent and the child. Now the problem is with the height. The issue here, because we haven't specified a height for the parent element, so the height 100% is not applied as we expect. It's not taking the height of the parent element because it doesn't have a height. So what we can do, we also can set the max height. Max height isn't working also because here we have the 100%. But if we use the view height unit, it will work. Alright, so this is working. Now I will remove the edit field. Alright, I'll check again if everything is working, which is perfect. Now that we're finished with styling our component, we need to be able to control it. So the component should be either open or closed, and we will be relying, of course, on the props to control the state of the component. We will name our prop show. So in case the show prop is true, the component will be visible. If it's false, the component will be hidden. So in our styled model, the component wrapper, let's change the name to modal wrapper and replace it here in our. Okay, so here we will add our control by introducing new functions, and we check if props.show, if it's true. What we need to do is add new styles. The style will be display to flex, and if show is false, if not show, the display will be none. Now if I test, I will see that the model has disappeared because show, here there's no show. I didn't provide the show props, so by default show is none and none is false. Now to be able to see the model, I need to provide show with a value true. With the value true, I should be able to see the form, but first I need to actually introduce these props to the model wrapper. So I will create a prop show that is equal to props.show. Now I can see the model and I can test if it's false. The model disappeared. So now the model has the control properly set up. We need to control it in our app.js component. To be able to control this dynamically after the component has been rendered, we'll need to use a state. I will create a state that is, and name it, I will name it show or is model visible, and I will create a constant is model visible and set is modal visible, which will be equal to use state, and by default it will be false. Let me remove the visible here and make it is modal, and also here is modal. Now all we need to do is use the set is modal to show or hide our model. Now by default it is hidden. Now we need to show it once a user click on a button. So we will create a button called add book that will allow the user to add a book. First create a div, then a button which has a value of a label of add book. On click event I will send a function that will set the is modal to true. So now my button add book, if I click it, it will show the 4. Alright, next I need to, for the user to be able to close the model anytime he wants. So we'll add an X here. Back in my model component I will add a close here. I will add a div with a class close that contain an X here, or close. For this button to work I need to pass it a function to the onClick event. This function will be a function that will set the show prop to false, but with React we can't change the value of the props because the props are not tracked. The state are created specifically for variables that need to be changed after the component has been rendered. That's why we can't change the props show. We need to change the state is modal. We need to use set is modal. To be able to use set is modal, I need to have it here in my model component. So what I need to do here is to pass a function that will control the set is modal, like this one here. This function I need to have it in a variable that I can pass it to model. So I will copy this function and I will create here another variable constant which will be called close model, which will be equal to this function that will set the is modal to false. Now I can pass the close model to a variable named close, which will be equal to this function. And here in my model.js I can call this function using the close props. I can pass the function, and once the event has been triggered it will be called. So we can test. First, the close is working fine, but the style is off. So let's style it. Since it is inside the model content, I will add here a style for the dot close, which will be position absolute, top 10 pixel, and right will be also 10 pixel. Z index 1. Oh, I have a typo here, so now it should work fine if I click, and this is the close. Now for the close button, it look off, so I will replace it with an X, and I will style it. I'll give it a larger font size 16 pixel and font weight bold. What I will do, I don't want it to to overlap the scroll bar, so remove it from here to inside the scroller element. This way it will be positioned relative to the scroller element, and plus I can embed it here. It's optional, it works both ways. I can embed it here. Here, as I can see, relative is not typed good. So here it is. This is my X. I need to add one more thing, is the cursor to pointer. Cursor to pointer. Now let's add some basic animation to our model using CSS. So for the animation, I will use the opacity attribute of CSS. First here, I will remove the display none and display flex. I'll keep it all the time, display flex, but hidden with opacity 0. Plus, I will add a transition for opacity with 0.2 second and an is and out. Now, in case it is visible, the show is true, the opacity will be 1. In case the show is false, the opacity will be 0. So if I go now to my browser and test, it is hidden, but unfortunately I can't click the button. Neither I can interact with the page because the opacity is 0, but the modal is still available on the page and is hiding the whole page. And the event propagation is captured by this modal element. If I now right click on the button and inspect, I will get the modal instead of the buttons because it is masking the button and the whole page. So to solve this issue, I can use the pointer events and set it to none. This will disable the modal capturing any event and will propagate to the page. So now I can interact with the page. The animation is still not working and I'm not able to close the modal. This is due to the pointer event, which is set to none. Now once it's open, I will set the pointer event to true. Alright, now I can remove all of this, because once the show is false, this will be removed actually, and I will stay with opacity 0 and pointer event none. So I will remove this one, I don't need it actually. Oh, I set it to true instead of all. Now I can close it. Alright, still the animation is not animating. Why? If I inspect the model wrapper, I have my transition here, which has been overridden by an auto-generated transition by the styled component library. What I can do is force my transition by adding import to this line, important inline, and here it is. This is our animation. Before we start with another feature, one more thing I need to clean up is the functions that we're passing on the button, which is created inline, and there's a similar function that is passed to close. What I want to do is unify these two functions in one. So instead of close model, I can create model show, and it will have a parameter v for value, and I'll pass the parameter here to set is model. So for model show, I need to pass a parameter. I cannot do it like this and pass the parameter. This will call the function and will return the result of the function. What I need to do is pass the function to be called once the event is triggered. So what I can do is also put it inside a function that will call it with the parameter. This way it will work. I need to, in case I need the event, I need to pass it. But with this style we are creating two functions. Another way, which don't need for us to create a function, is, sorry, this is lowercase, it should be a lowercase. Another way is to use bind. By using bind we can pass this as the scope of the function, and any parameter we need. Here we'll pass the true. What will happen here with the bind function, we set the first parameter to an object that will behave as the scope of the function, and any parameter we pass after the first parameter will be sent to the modal show once it is called. So here in our case we pass true. The same for the close, but this time we'll pass as the first parameter false. Now in case you need to use the event, this will automatically be passed, so you can retrieve it here like this as the last parameter, and if we test, this will work as expected. Now, as we can see, the app component has become very large with a lot of responsibility. As we did for the book list component, we need to do for the book form. Create a component called book form. Now I will create a folder called components to organize my components in folders. First I will move the book list to components, move. Now I will check app.js to make sure it is correctly updated, perfect. And inside the components folder I will create a book form.js component. Also it will be a functional component. Here we'll grab the content from the app.js. Here we need the button and the modal, so we'll get them both. And we'll pass them here, but we need a wrapper, of course, which for now I will create the empty element provided by React. First I need for this and to get the states responsible for the opening and showing the model, also the loading state. First I need to import use state. I need then the piece of state responsible for the loading and the is model. I get them. This is for the loading and this is for the is model. Now in the use effect I'm retrieving the books, and I have here an on change which sets the book. I'll keep it in the app for now. Of course I need to move the submit, and the modal show. I need to move these, both of these to the book 4. And I need the set books here, which I could pass it as a props to book 4, also for the same for the on change. Now what I will do, since I will be passing the set book, I will remove on change to book 4. Now also there is the UI, the button, the message, the field and the model, all are used in the book form only, so I will remove them to book form. Alright, so now we'll import the book 4, import book 4 from ./component /book 4, and I'll use it in place of the form here, book 4. First I need to pass it the book and the set book. Alright, and I can here, what I can do is destructure them from here, book, set book. Here I need to use the // to move out of this folder to be able to find the UI. Now in book 4 DB is not defined, we need the DB, the firebase in the book form too, and get the DB the same way we did it for the app. Now we have the error, so what I will do, I will remove the state from the app to the book 4. Alright, and everything is working as before.